This is super important because you're going to use it now for the rest of your whole entire school life. So you want to get it down. Okay, so they're doing d over 5 equals negative 6. So the first thing we ask in algebra is, what are they doing? So they're dividing. And then you're going to do the opposite to get the letter away from the number. So if they're dividing, you do what?
You turn.
Yep. So you're going to multiply by 5, and anything you do to one side.
Do the other.
Yep. So those are the steps, and you keep doing that until you're left with just a letter on one side and a number on the other, and it could be one step, it could be multi-steps. So for this one, this cancels each other out. We multiply this by 5. What's left on this side is d, and then we have a negative and a positive, and we are multiplying. So it's a negative 6 times 5 is 30. D equals negative 30.
Okay.
So you can do number 3, and I'm going to do number 2 for the video. 8x equals negative 6, so we're going to go to our steps. What are they doing? They're multiplying. You do the opposite, so you're going to divide. And this is the way we show division. And we know which number to divide because it's stuck together with the letter. This cancels each other out. What's left on this side is x, and then this one is negative 6/8, which is a perfectly fine answer. And then we have to simplify it, so we divide it by 2 for the numerator, we divide it by 2 for the denominator, and it's negative 3/4. Okay, so those are those type of problems. It doesn't matter if it's a fraction, it doesn't matter if it's a whole number or a decimal, you would do the same exact thing. So 3.2n equals 0.8, negative 0.8. They're multiplying, so you divide. Anything you do to one side, you do to the other. The answer is going to be negative because we have a negative right here. So the answer is negative, and then we go 0.8, 3.2, like this. And then this cannot be here, so we have to clear it. How many jumps did it take to clear it? 1. So you jump.
I can't see the bottom of your screen.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So this had a point in it. We can't have a point in this part of our division, so we have to clear it out. How many jumps did it take to clear it out? 1. So we take our decimal here, and we move it the same number, so the problem becomes 8 goes into 32 how many times? 4. So the answer is negative 4. If it was a fraction, we're going to do the same exact thing. So say it was 3/4 n equals 4. We're going to clear out the same exact way, except for a fraction. The way you divide the fraction out is to use the reciprocal. So this cancels each other out. What's left on this side is n. And then whatever we do on this side, we do on this side. 4 times 4 is 16, and then this is over 1. 1 times 3 is 3.
Okay.
And now we don't want to leave it as an improper fraction, so we change it to a mixed number. It's 5 1/3 because 3 goes into 16 5 times. What's left over is 1 over 3. So that should take care of all of those type of problems. It doesn't matter what it is. We still keep the decimal or whatever. So that
We didn't do number 3 yet.
Yeah, I'm going to have you do these while I'm just doing an example of each of them. So you can keep working on it. You can mute me if you want.
Okay.
All right, and then this one is y plus 12 equals negative 26. So same thing, we're going to use the same steps. What are they doing? They're adding, so we do the opposite, we subtract. Anything we do to one side, we do on the other. This cancels each other out. What's left on this side is y. And then 26 and 12 is 38, and we're adding both negatives, so it's going to be a negative 38. For this one, it's same exact thing, but it is a decimal, so it's negative 5.47 plus k equals negative 14.19. So I'm going to turn this around. I just like my k over here. That's how I like it. You don't have to do that. But they're subtracting, so we're going to add. And then what we do to one side, we do on the other. So we're going to add 0.457 on this side. And then since we have a negative and a positive, we're actually not adding. We are going to do 14.19. Biggest integer wins the sign, so I know that my answer is going to be negative. I have a negative and a positive, so I'm going to actually subtract. 9 minus 7 is 2, and then we do this. And then the decimal just goes straight down. So it's negative 8.72 for that type of problem. We do the same exact process as if it was just a regular number, like this one. And then if it's a fraction, we have 1 1/8 equals g minus 4 2/5. So this is getting a little complicated, but we just use the same exact process. So we're going to do g minus 4 2/5. They're subtracting, so we're going to add 4 2/5. And what we do to one side, we do to the other. Now I have a positive and a positive, so I'm going to add these fractions. So I'm going to do 1 1/8 plus 4 2/5. And I have to find my common denominator. I multiply this by 5. Anything I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. I multiply this by 8. Anything I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. Now I have 5. I have 21/40 equals g. So same exact process, we just are working with decimals or fractions, which is no big deal. We handle it exactly the same. Now for the word problems, 42 less than x is negative 50. So they want you to put this in an equation. So 42 less than x, because it says less than, that means whatever's here goes first, because you have to have something and then make it less than. So it's x minus 42 equals negative 50, and then you would solve the equation. They're subtracting 42, so you add 42. What you do to one side, you do to the other. This cancels each other out. What's left on this side is x. And then negative integer wins the sign because it's bigger. So my answer is negative. And I have a negative and a positive, so I subtract. 50 minus 42 is 8. 32 is the sum of a number z and 9. Because they said sum, that means to add. And they said 32 is. Whenever they say is, they're saying equals. So then you would solve this. If they say quotient, that means division. And if they say product, that's multiplication. And difference or minus, they would use for subtraction. So those are examples of all of those type of problems. Now, you might have something that looks like this. 2 times 9 equals 8 plus W, then all you would do is solve this part first. 2 times 9 is 18 equals 8 plus W. And then you would do, they're adding 8, you subtract 8. What you do to one side, you do to the other. This cancels each other out. What's left on this side is W. And then 18 minus 8 is 10. So same thing. This one you would solve this before you did any of your algebra. So you're going to do W over 9 equals what's 9 minus 8, 1. And then they're dividing 9, so you're going to multiply 9. And anything you do to one side, you do to the other. This cancels each other out. It's W equals 9 times 1 is 9. For this type of problem, the trickiest part is managing your negative and positives, but you would do the same thing. They're subtracting 5, so you're going to add 5. What you do to one side, you do to the other. This cancels each other out. What's left on this side is 9. And then you have a negative and a positive. Biggest integer wins the sign. So my answer is negative. And then I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. Okay. We know for this type of problem, we circle this and this becomes a plus. So then we would just say x plus 20 equals 17. They're adding 20, so we subtract 20. Anything we do to one side, we do to the other. Biggest integer wins the sign. So my answer is negative. And then I have a negative and a positive, so I subtract. X equals negative 3. This type of problem is kind of weird, different than what we normally see. Let me focus it better. So this one, I'm going to turn it around. Negative a plus 28 equals 25. So you're going to do, they're adding 28. You're going to subtract 28. What you do to one side, you do to the other. And then biggest integer wins the sign. It's negative. You have a negative and a positive, so it is subtraction. You subtract 28 from 25 is negative 3. And then you have something that I don't think you've seen much, so I will review it with you. You have a negative a, and we cannot have a negative a, but it's pretty easy to take care of that. Let me get some more light on here. And all you do for negative a is you basically do this, and you transfer the negative sign over. And now we have a negative and a negative that we're multiplying. So this cancels each other out. What's left on this side is an a. And then you have a negative and a negative, so it becomes a positive 3. So that is an example of that type of exception. Okay, here's another one. So they're subtracting 15. You're going to add 15. What you do to one side, you do to the other. And then you're left with a negative n equals biggest integer wins the sign. My problem is positive. I have 15 minus 14 is 1. And then I'm left with a negative n. So I just transfer it over like this. I'm multiplying it, and it becomes negative 1. Here is with decimals. We have they're subtracting a little bit more light on here. Shadow. There we go. Okay, so they're adding, they're subtracting 63.4, so you add 63.4. Anything you do to one side, you do to the other. 0.1.4 is 0.5. 8 plus 3 is 11. 6, 7, 8, 9. And then what we're left with on this side is negative n. So we just multiply it out. And this cancels each other out. N equals negative 91.5. So I think those ones are similar. Okay. So this is a fraction that looks pretty crazy, but we still deal with it the same exact way. So we're going to take number 25 is 4,205 over 456 equals k minus 3 and 14/19. Probably not going to have anything this hard, but we might as well practice it because we have to get used to doing harder ones. So they're subtracting 3 and 14/19. So you're going to add 3 and 14/19. And what you do to one side, you do to the other. Like that. Now, if you'll notice, this is an improper fraction, and this looks pretty big to me, so I'm just not going to even deal with it like that because it's too big. So I'm going to turn it into a mixed number. 4,205 divided by 456 equals 9. And then 9 times 4,205 divided by 9. 456 times 9, so you're going to multiply these together, equals 4,104. And then I'm going to subtract 4,205, so it's 101/456. So you just do that. And to get this 19 to be 456, I'm going to multiply it by 24. And I knew that if they were going to give me this big of a problem, 456 would be able to go into 19. Evenly. So I knew to multiply this by 24. Now you're going to have the same denominator. And then we just add the numerators over 456 and add in our mixed number. And that is how you do it. I don't think you're going to have anything that tricky right now. Probably next year. So we will stop the video.